I'm 29. If you're in your 20s, listen closely. Your biggest mistake won't be failing. It will be not trusting yourself enough to start. If you need validation for every decision you need to make, it shows you don't believe in yourself. Because if you don't believe in yourself, why should anyone else? Your 20s are not a deadline. They are basically a testing ground. Welcome to my channel. Welcome everyone to my channel. I'm Sheila and I go by the name Wholesomely Sheila on this channel. And in this video, I want to be talking to my audience in their 20s about what they should expect for those that are not yet 20 and those already in their 20s, what they can do or improve on, assuming they haven't started some of the things I'll be talking about in this video. By the way, if you're seeing me for the first time, welcome. This is a family where we talk about things about life, and also I do homekeeping videos because I love homekeeping, basically. If you're an old subscriber, welcome back. Without any further ado, let's get right into the video. You all will agree with me that life is in stages. So right from when you were conceived, till when you were born, till when you're in your teenage, and no, even before teenage, toddler, then eventually there comes a time where you turn 18 and you become an adult and you're expected to make adult decisions all of a sudden. And at some point you turn 20 and you're still trying to navigate life, not having known much about life and about making big decisions. We're probably in school. In my case, I was still in uni at the time I turned 20. You're still going through uni and eventually you graduate from uni and you're expected to make some big lifetime decisions. And as they say, the frontal lobe of a woman matures or fully forms at the age of 25. I had men at the age of 30. So 20 is a very critical stage in everyone's life, and I thought I should talk about it in different chapters. Of course, this video cannot encompass everything, but I'll talk about the very salient ones. So let's move on to chapter 1. Chapter 1, let's talk about career choices. So most times you make your career choice when you're in your 20s. For some people, including me, I made the decision when I was a teenager, whereby you decide after you're out of high school or secondary school, as we call it, and you're expected to make a decision about what you want to become in life. And most times these decisions are fueled by your environment, by what you've seen growing up. Some people, maybe by their role models, maybe your father or your mother is a role model, and you tend to go in that direction. For some people, based off on probably I was so smart, so it just makes sense for me to study this particular course because I'm smart, or I'm so good at mathematics, so it makes sense for me to study engineering. So some of these things come together to make the decision for you on what course to study in school. And eventually you continue with that course even in your 20s, assuming it's a 4-year course or a 5-year course or a 6-year course. Now, after making such decisions, obviously with the influence of your parents, you're expected to follow through, of course. And what then happens afterwards? After your frontal lobe are fully formed, after you've graduated, what then comes next? So all I can say about this is you can't control that period. Of course, that period is most times heavily influenced by your parents or by your guardian or by whoever is around you, and so you can't be mad at that. You can only make the best decision at that point. Now, what happens later? So you hear stories about how people after university, they went ahead to pursue what they really love, because at that time they've grown, their frontal lobe have matured, and eventually they're seeing things for what it is. And in many cases, some people continue. I'll use myself as an example. I made such decision, not being fully aware of what was going on. But if I look back in time, I wouldn't regret that, because I think the course I studied, for context, I studied medicine. I'm a medical doctor practicing in the UK. So if I look back, I don't regret that studying medicine. I think it's the best decision I made at that point. But studying medicine robbed me of other skills I already had that are not medical related. So we're going to get back on that. What I'm trying to say is that if you feel like you made the wrong decision and you realize that in your 20s, as I mentioned earlier on in this video, your 20s is a testing ground and not a deadline. So at any point you realize I have made a mistake, there shouldn't be any shame regarding what you should do, or if you want to retract your steps, there shouldn't be any shame regarding that. And I feel like you shouldn't be trying to seek validation about what you feel, because if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect someone else to believe in you? You have to believe in yourself and make plans regarding that. Now, I'm not trying to say that if you're in university, you should drop out of school because you don't like the course. There are ways to use it. You have to use your sense. There are ways to approach these things. So A case in point, whereby you're in school and you feel like this course is not what's the best for you. At that point, what do? You should be thinking about, okay, what do I do next? Can I pull through? If it's something that I can never pull through, I want to go to this other course, then you might want to discuss it with your parents or your legal guidance and tell them, this is my plan. You shouldn't just come and say, I want to drop out. No, that is not sensible. You should have a plan. What is your backup plan? So that is where planning comes into place. As in your 20s, you should be very good at planning. You should be very disciplined. These are the two things that goes with your career. A career that is successful is accompanied by planning and discipline. If you're not disciplined and if you don't plan yourself, I don't know what to say to you. So these are the two things you have to work with regarding your career. If you feel like you made a mistake, don't ever feel like you're a failure because you're trying to retract your steps. No, your 20s is a testing ground and you should make good use of it, because you don't want to live a life of regret whereby you're studying a course you're not happy studying and eventually in your 30s you're feeling like, oh, I'm too old to go back. So do it now in your 20s. Now, in a case whereby you decide to pull through and you finish the course, you always have the opportunity to go back to school and do whatever you wanted to do. Whether it's a skill or a full-on studying in school, you might want to consider doing that too. Now, this will move us on to chapter 2. So chapter 2, finances. Finance is a very broad topic that I wouldn't want to go into because I don't have a financial degree and I am not a financial advisor. But it's very common that in your 20s would be that moment whereby you start making loads of cash. That's when you start seeing an amount of money you've never seen all through your life. You were a child or a teenager. Some people get that. Times have changed. People now make a lot of money in their teen age. But let's talk about the traditional times whereby you start earning after your university education, probably during your house job or internship. So most times you're wowed, you're excited about the amount of money you're making, and if you're not being careful, those money just vanish via, for women, wigs and all those kind of things that take up your money, makeup items, dresses. You want to look good, because I'm not saying you shouldn't look good, but it's very possible for you to be financially responsible in your 20s because it's the first time you're touching that kind of money. And that's when you then see some people in their 30s, that's when they are now trying to learn about investments and about budgeting and all sorts of that. So my advice to you if you're in your 20s is this: at that point whereby you start earning, at that point whereby you start making some substantial amount of money, it's very good that you invest. Find an investment, depending on where you are, find an investment that works for you. I would advise start with a very low risk one, because you don't even know much about, unless you know much about finances, good and fine. But if you don't know much about finances, try and get those investments that are very low risk. Then from there you build on and build on and build on as you keep advancing in your career or keep advancing in the amount of money you're making. You can make more decisions. So one of the ones that I know that are low risk is InvestEngine. Is, yes, you wouldn't really get much, of course, but it's low risk, exactly. So you might now want to go for other high risk ones as you mature and as you get better at what you're doing, if you get my point. Moving on to chapter 3, I want to talk about relationships. So relationship is also a very broad thing and something that is very crucial in your 20s. It starts off as in your teenage age, but most times, most people get into relationships in their 20s. Most people, if not all, get into their first relationship in their 20s, or their second, or I don't know. But what I'm just trying to point out is that relationships is very beautiful and very sweet and something you might want to experience, but I would also advise that you should be very mindful of the kind of people you date. What's your purpose? Why do you want to date this person? Your 20s shouldn't, in as much as 20s is your testing ground, it shouldn't be that you just want to test around and just date aimlessly. You should be dating with a purpose. I've heard of people that just date for the experience. For some reason, I don't understand what they mean by an experience. Yes, I understand that experience is good in maybe your job and other things, But why do you want to just date people for dating sake? You can see the red flags, you can see the red banner, you can see the red billboard, but you still want to date the person for the experience. I don't get it sometimes, but do you? Of course. But I feel like anyone that is dating should date with a purpose. And if you are, I also hear about this unpopular opinion about you shouldn't be getting married or settling down in your 20s, you should be getting married in your 30s. And in as much as those people say that with much audacity, I still believe in that in life, everybody has their different risks, everybody has their different purpose in life, everybody has their different timeline, and no one is the same. Some people will get married in their 20s, some people will get married in their 30s, some people will get married in their 40s, some people will get divorced, some people will not get divorced. So it's just about working in your own timeline, and what guides all these things is dating with purpose. In a case whereby you're dating with purpose, you're more likely to find that person you settle down with, because before you even get into the relationship, you already know this, you already ticked some boxes in terms of, and I feel like for you to be able to carry all these things out, you also have to be in tune with God, because your instincts is kind of laced with Holy Spirit. If you are very prayerful and very in tune with God, these things will guide you. So do not ever feel shame if you're making a big decision of getting married in your 20s. Do not ever feel shame if you're making a big decision of having kids in your 20s. Don't make anyone make you feel like you're not serious and you don't care about your career. I feel like you can carry everything along. Of course, having kids slows you down to an extent, but it's a beautiful slowdown. Oh my goodness, it's such a beautiful delay, if there's a word like that. But it's something you can always pick up at any point you can pick up from. So there shouldn't be any manual that says that you have to get married in your 30s, and make sure your career is booming before you go ahead to get married and find yourself. Yes, I hear about finding yourself, and it's a very good thing. I think that's the topic on its own. It's a very good thing to have in mind, to always find yourself in every situation, and I feel like it comes with time. I would say that if I'm being very honest with myself, I think that I've always worked with my instincts for a very long time, but I feel like when I became 100%, oh my goodness, at this point I'm very self-aware. I feel like when I became 100% self-aware was when I was 27, and it then made me think that those people that said that the frontal lobe fully forms at 25, it's probably true, I don't know, but I became very self-aware. Now, I'm not saying that before 27 I made bad decisions, no, because I had very good instincts. I was very in tune with God. You know, when you're single, you pray more. When you're single, you pray more because you don't have much distractions, you don't have any kids, you don't have any career, you're just going to school and coming back. So I would say I made very great decisions. But in other aspects of life, in terms of finances, in terms of managing my finances, in terms of advancing in my career, making big decisions of, you know, advancing in career generally, I think I became 100% self-aware at 27. And that's when I kicked off. Like, it was just like a tweak in my head, and I started making big decisions in terms of those areas. So I still feel like your 20s is that very crucial testing ground whereby you should make all the mistakes you have to make and not be ashamed of it. Chapter 4, your 20s should be when you set healthy boundaries. So in your 20s, you're going to, of course, you're growing, you're making decisions, some things that you've already known before as you were growing up, some of them are not making sense to you. At that point, you should be able to set healthy boundaries. At this point, you might be having business ideas even very different from the course you studied in school, or you might be having just new things are now fantasizing you. There are new things you now love that you don't used to love or you weren't even aware of earlier on. And at this point, why I said you have to set healthy boundaries, because some people around you, some people in your life, some people in your environment, some people, some friends might not even be in tune with what you are seeing, where you're seeing yourself. So at that point, you don't need to take your things to everyone to validate you. I was on Instagram and I was scrolling. I saw a video. I can't remember the name of the person again, but she's quite popular. She was talking about how she started a skincare business and how she went to someone to share the idea of starting a skincare business, and the person was like, why do you want to start a skincare business? Everyone is doing it, so why should you do it? And that struck to me because this is a very common saying about people, whereby they project their insecurity to you. That thing you want to start, when you tell them about it, they project the insecurity they have in themselves in you. And if you're not one person that has a very strong spirit that makes a decision on her own, on his own, you can fall for that and be like, it's true. Everybody has skincare business. Who even want to use mine? And look at her today. She went ahead to do it despite the person saying, why this? So she went ahead to start her skincare business, and she's doing really well now. And to me, I've never really understood, maybe I'm just different, but I've never really understood people that have a business idea and feel like they need someone to tell them, do it before they do it. If I have a business, it's just that, unless it's money that is my issue, if I have a business idea and I have a clear path on how I can follow it, I will go ahead with it. And if I fail, so be it. If I don't, better. So I've also heard of other examples. I'm sure you even know so many examples. That's if you're not even one person that's had this issue. So I still believe in setting healthy boundaries. You should set such boundaries such that even if someone wants to question your skill or whatever business you're doing or whatever venture you're pursuing, the person questions it in a very respectable way. But in a case whereby you don't set your boundaries, that means you're letting a lot of noise into your space. And this noise, even if you think you're strong enough, with time, they start making sense to you. They start going in your subconscious, and you really don't want that in your life, because in this your 20s, you should be building that foundation. You should bring in those grounds that will set you for your 30s. So I would say set healthy boundaries, and don't always take your ideas to people to validate for you. Finally, all I'm trying to point out to you is that your 20s is not about getting it right. It's about getting started, and you're not in a competition with anyone. Those things you want to do, I think you should start them now. You don't have to overthink. Yes, you have to plan. You have to be disciplined in order to follow through. I was discussing with my friend how I'm very good at planning, but I just noticed that I'm very terrible at executing it. I can make out a perfect plan, but when it comes to execution, I fail. And I had to audit myself. After I had this conversation with my friend, I had to audit myself, and I realized that maybe because I have so many responsibilities on my shoulders, and maybe that's why I don't execute very well. So even though I plan beautifully, maybe I have to reduce those tasks I give to myself, and that way it could work. And following that, because before now I used to plan myself like monthly. This month, this is what I want to achieve. This next month, this is what I want to achieve. And following that, I had to start breaking up my monthly plans into weekly plans. So this week, this is what I want to achieve. Some weeks, I don't want to achieve anything, and that's okay. That's okay, because I already have other responsibilities. I'm just trying to improve myself so that I don't look back and have regrets. And sitting here at 29, if I look back, I have no regrets. None. Because at 27, when I looked back, I picked out some things I wasn't happy that I wasn't doing. And that was when I started hustling to get them right. Yes, I started hustling to get them right, because I saw that I'm approaching 30 and I feel lost. And that's why I said it's okay to feel lost. But what matters is what happens after you felt lost. That is what really matters. So in this video, all I'm trying to say is that your 20s is not about getting it right. Your 20s is about getting started. So get started. Learn that skill. Start that business. Start that venture. And if you fail at it, that's fine. You audit yourself, you learn from it, and you go again. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.